Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seats. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!
Hello, everybody. Dave, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. It's been a good day, and we've been excited about this day for days now, I guess about a week or so. And so we've been announcing it with a lot of secrecy. We've not actually said anything. We said a lot without saying anything, but we
Yes.
wanted to be sure that we gave the proper respect to our guest and to the content and let him tell his story. So, Robert, we're thankful for those that gave us a contact to our guest that we're going to have tonight. I'm going to let you introduce him in just a second. So we will say thanks for that. And a special thank you to him for accepting and letting us do our part to try to share the story. And we know a lot of people that will be impacted by this without a doubt. So we won't belabor the point here, but we are honored tonight. And this podcast is we've all from day one we've honored veterans and the military and all that goes with that. That's a broad subject, but we do our Veteran of the Week and we talk about the sacrifice. And sometimes the sacrifice, Robert, is not just on the field of battle. There's some things that can happen later and a lot of our listeners understand that and have been impacted, I'm sure, in some way by it. So Rob, take it away, introduce our guest, and folks, we're just deeply honored to be a small part of what I think is an amazing story, and we're looking forward to speaking to him this evening.
In case y'all haven't seen it or haven't had the opportunity to, there's a movie that came out on Memorial Day weekend called The Keeper, and it's a very special movie. It's very, very moving. It's about a gentleman named George Eshleman and his trail, his journeys, and such as that. And we have Mr. George Eshleman with us tonight, and I'm going to bring him right up, and we're going to let him tell his story. How about that?
Sounds good.
Hello, Mr. George. How are you?
Doing fine. Thank you all for having me.
We love that. It's our privilege and our honor to have you on here. That's the content of the movie is at its core is a fight against veteran suicide, and I lost my own father to that. So this is a very moving movie and a very moving story for me on so many levels, and I'm so excited that you've joined us here tonight. And we've talked several times, and I haven't wanted to hang the phone up because you're so personable, and the feeling that you have and that you give out is so positive. And so, I mean, I'm going to let you talk and let the people out there hear it for themselves.
Yeah. It's
tell us,
I appreciate it. Good.
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself, George, and how you got to that point. Kind of lead up to that, and then we'll talk about the movie. What we can talk about. I don't know what all we can talk about or not, but we want to be respectful to that. And center on we've got some questions, but some aspects of that. But tell us about George. We'd love to hear it.
I'm simple, private. I work in my workshop. I stay away from people. I was in the military, 75th Artillery Brigade out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma, with the Desert Storm. And when I came back from Desert Storm, like most soldiers, PTSD doesn't set in right away. You're still amped up, wired. Usually takes a couple of years, and then things just start kind of creeping in. Well, for me, it did that, and I was pretty strong, for 24 and a half years. And things started getting a little worse. And I had the most blessed thing I ever had was my wife that I met in 97. And it got to a point where everyone around me thought I was good to go. I was just like I am right now, smiling, happy. but the other side of me was planning a homicide, mine. And yeah, I wasn't afraid of it, which scares me now thinking back. And so I guess everything came in a head when I got a phone call at around 6:18. I was heading to work at Mohawk Industries in Calhoun. And on the other end of the phone was my best friend's wife. And she was kind of distraught. And she said my best friend had shot himself. And it didn't register with me because I knew him. And I was like, I thought, in the foot or something because he deer hunts. And I was like, where? And she said in the head. And wow, at that moment, everything in my life changed. I turned right back around, went back home, just called in Mohawk and said I quit. And they called me back a few times. I didn't answer. I didn't want to hear what they had to say. I got on Facebook about a week or two after that. During that time, drank a lot of scotch. Got on Facebook and said I was going to hike the AT, Appalachian Trail, with his name tape, and I was going to leave it at Katahdin. And that was it. Well, that's all I posted. The other side was I was going to go the other way and hike a while and then take my own life. But during that process, it was 6 months before the hike, I started it. People got the message and it just went like wildfire. Thousands of people got on the page. I was getting names, dozens every day. And I was able to print out that, because I had to pay for them, have them made 363 names. And I set out with those names. And when all that happened, and I was up there in Katahdin, I left the name tape and came down. People were still leaving messages and stuff like that. And I'm still playing along with it, but in the back of my mind, I know where I'm going, Rainbow Stream Shelter. And the reason I chose that is because there's an overlook and it's a beautiful lake. And in the movie, you'll hear Angus say, the most beautiful place I could find is Step Off. And that's what I thought about. It's like, so it's scary that half of, what people see on the outside is not what's going on the inside. And for so long, we're all afraid to let people see what's on the inside, especially men, and, if anyone were to say, yeah, George, you're weak, well, they don't know me. They'll tell you right away, George he's not a weak person. I'm very determined and forceful, and, I accomplish things. However, on the inside, I was broken, and there's still parts of me that are broken. But it makes it all easier when, people are out there and they care. So the day I got to Rainbow Stream Shelter, about 50 yards behind that shelter is just a huge tree, and sat behind it, reached out, had a Glock 17. I just brand new Glock, had one round in it. And as I'm sitting there, I wasn't afraid. I really wasn't crying. I was just kind of, I call it like about an 8 or 10 second blank in my head. There's just nothing there. It's like I'm empty and I'm ready to do this. And what I heard was, and it, sounds odd, but it's true. I heard, hey, just like you heard it. And it scared me, startled me. I thought someone saw me there. And when I snapped out of it and looked around, there was no one there. But there was such a rush immediately of me looking at the name tapes in my lap and the people I met on the plane, at the hostel, the bus ride from the airport to the hostel, to the Appalachian Trail Cafe, all these people that I met, their images and their faces and the talks we had. And it just dawned on me. It was like, wow, you're about to dump all this on all these people. And that is what really motivated me to finish the hike and get to Georgia with these name tapes. And in the movie, it says, this journey was too important for you to fail. The message wasn't just meant for you, it was meant to be shared. And the entire rest of the, 4.5 months, I did in 5, that it took me to get to Georgia, I was a changed person. The PTSD was still there. The dreams, I don't want to be around people, the antisocial, the alcoholism, all that was still there. But it was like I was riding on someone else's back. Like, okay, this is not that hard. I can deal with this as long as I've got, you, or I've got you. And knowing that is more than half the battle. I mean, you got that, you'll live. So I took, well, here, I'll say this. Both of y'all saw the movie. So my wife, Shanna Franchisi, gave me a phone call, and she said she'd had a dream, and you know which one I'm talking about. Yes. And okay, Rhonda in real life never knew, and everything in the movie actually happened. They were real great at getting to the exact locations and the phone calls, and Rhonda did not know how right she was until she read the screenplay. Oh, and wow. It blew her away. She passed away September 22nd, 2017, 5 months after I finished the screenplay.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, the look on her face was, she wanted to kill me, but it was also a relief that you did this. You know, you're still here, so that's a big accomplishment. So yeah, when I got to the end of the trail, I got home. I had a journal, or a semi-quasi journal, a bunch of different books. But anyway, I took everything in there and I put it into a story. And writing a story is fairly simple. Making it into a screenplay for a movie is a whole different creature. Yeah, that takes someone that's studied it, knows how to do it. And at first, I just wanted to write a book. And a bunch of friends that had read the screenplay or read my story, they said, no, this needs to be a movie. I didn't know how to go out doing it. So I put it on this is divine intervention. I put it on a website for freelancers. And I was getting all these messages about, I'm a copywriter, I'm a trademarker, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm thinking, it says screenwriter. That's what I'm looking for. So I went ahead and took it off the website. I said, that's not going to work. And I shelved the story for about a month or two. And I got this phone call from this guy, and he says, hopefully I've got the right person. My name is Todd Tabalazzi. I'm a naval commander at San Diego, active duty. And I was wondering, are you still looking for a screenwriter? And I said, sure. So we spoke for the next week, pretty much every day, 3 or 4 hours a day, actually. And he got to really understand the story in the back. And he said, I want to be honest. He goes, I want to be truthful, George. I had one of my good friends a couple of years ago commit suicide. And it was like, bam, there's another person that knows someone who, so it touches everybody. Well, he took it and he turned it into a screenplay, turned it into a movie. And I just kind of sat back, and he put it in shows and different things. And it was winning, best screenplay and stuff. And Angus Benfield of Lama Entertainment in California contacted Todd and said, hey, your screenplay kind of came across my desk and I want to make this movie. Has anyone else optioned it? And he said, no, not currently. So Angus optioned the movie, and they started pre-production of it. And during that process of choosing him or one of the bigger studios was the fact that Angus had made a spiritual movie before called Heaven on Tubi. And just the fact of that and me speaking about my faith on the phone to him didn't even razzle him. That it would some people like, well, we have to tone that down because it's Hollywood. He didn't. And I knew right then and there, this is the guy. And then I met him in California, and we resemble each other. He's wow. Shorter than me, about an inch, same build, same everything. And I thought, okay, this is getting a little weird now. I got Todd Tabalazzi over here. Great screenplay. Who is basically a twin brother. Yeah. And it was just.
You do tell him you're the good looking one, right?
It went on. It took about another year.
You do tell him that you are the good looking.
Angus, you make me look good. Oh, yeah, no, I just tell him, I said, you make me look good, Angus, because people see you on screen like, oh, that's George Eshleman. It's like, no, George has a face for radio, like my mother would say. But yeah, so they were kicking around the idea of making the movie in California on the trails and stuff. And it was Angus, right from the start, he said he didn't want to just make a movie, and he's quoted for posterity or just, notoriety. that he wants to make something that will go outside the four walls of the theater. And to do that, we had to step foot, as it's called, boots on the ground, where I went on the AT. And in doing that, the actors and the cast and crew were able to really submerge themselves in the story. They say actors get into their characters. These characters got into the actors, the real people. Anthony Barton, Wade Baker, Michael Blanco, Sophie Shampoo. These are real people. And to watch these actors morph into these people and get the mannerisms right, where the family members saw the movie and they're like, that was my sister. That was my brother. How did y'all? Wow. And so that was real special, what happened there. And then for Angus to start the movie off kind of shy, not knowing what to expect on the trail, and still hiding something. But by the end of the trail, he's strong. He's accomplished it. He knows what his next mission is. And that's really how it happened for me. It was just amazing how movies are made and how things come together. We sit there and we watch a 2-hour movie and we flip the next channel. You don't realize that it takes, a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort, 2 or 3 years to make that 2-hour movie. This movie was made on a micro budget, which is not $1 million. I don't even think it was $500,000, which would blow your mind because people that have seen the movie, they think it's a multi-million-dollar budget movie. Just from where we went. It was and it was all hands on deck. I mean, I rented some of the cars up there in Maine for the cast and crew. I put my own money in it. I gave my life rights away, so I don't make any money on the story. But it was that important, to make sure that this gets out there and people kind of get the understanding that prior to all this, suicide was taboo. It wasn't spoken about because, it's like, oh, that person is dirty. Now it's a major motion picture. So the gloves are off. We got to talk about it,
Right.
And once we start talking about it, we realize like you, Robert, that your father passed away, Vietnam veteran, my generation's heroes. Everyone knows somebody. And it takes just that simple understanding that, one, no one walks the trail alone, which is the trail of life, that you're not alone. Never, ever. You're never alone. So to understand that and embrace that, you'll live a long, long, healthy life. Never quit anything until tomorrow.
I loved that reoccurring theme through the movie of that reminder to the character of that very point. And it was always at a moment of different sorts of emotions, different crises, and different things that were going on in his life, not just the suicide part, but just other things, And I love there's emotional toil that's going on all over the place. Sometimes people are arguing; they're not, he's not happy with how people are talking to him, and they're not happy with how he's reacting to certain things, and it does take you on a journey. I do have a question. Had you done that hike before, or parts of it, or all of it before you started that journey that the movie's about? Had you been on that Appalachian Trail?
No, that was the first time I had ever even put a backpack on.
Wow.
I was out of shape. Yeah, and Angus, he jokes around about it on interviews and stuff he does. I think it was on ABC News a while back, and he said that, George was not the best shape. He drank, he smoked, and but looking back, it was like, well, yeah, but I wasn't planning on doing a through hike. So to me, it wasn't, I don't need to be healthy. But since that hike, I've got 3 through hikes under me now. So I've done it 3 times.
Awesome. And what was the end? Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
What was it ended in Georgia, but what was the end of the trail? What area was the end of the trail sort of ended at? You don't have to be specific, but just generally, where in Georgia was it end at?
It's Amicalola Falls up in North Georgia.
Okay.
It's Springer Mountain.
I've been to Amicalola Falls.
Yep. When people see that that scene at the end, they're witnessing history because no one has ever filmed on Springer. No one.
Oh,
You're not
wow.
allowed to. I hate to say it, but we do have a thank you section in the end of the movie. You'll look, it says thank you to the National Forestry Service, and it gives 2 names. So, but yeah, and there was only no filming. It was just a drone shot that they pulled off of. There wasn't a big crew or anything up there. But yeah, it was important to go to every location that I went to. Now, naturally, the scene with the tree, that's almost 13 miles in. They couldn't hike that all the equipment in there. That was, and I was there 22 days on set, every day. And some of the scenes, the only 2 scenes that I really had an issue with being there, was that scene behind the tree. And the eerie part about it was the weapon that was used in that scene is a, what do they call them? It's an inert gun. The slide doesn't work. The trigger doesn't pull. It doesn't have a hammer. Magazine doesn't come out there. It's an inert. It's for police training.
Yeah.
And as Angus, and everyone heard it too. Everybody heard it. As Angus is sitting there, he's rehearsing it. Everyone heard a click. Everybody heard it. And when I heard it, I lost it. I had to turn out. I left because in real life, I'd never heard the click because I never pulled the trigger. That gun didn't make a click. So we don't know where the click came from, but it's on audio. You can see it and you can hear it in the unedited tape, the portion, when they put a movie all together. But it was, 2-minute scene in the rehearsals. You can hear the click and you hear people like looking around going, okay. Cause they freaked out. Like, that's not supposed to be a real gun. The safety guy's like, whoa, hold on. Where did click come from? And nobody knew. But yeah, so that was one scene that I had to walk away from. And I wasn't good for, a day and a half after that.
Oh, I'm sure.
On the way home, I got a 6-pack. Yeah. And I drank 4 of them in the, 14, 15 miles that took you back to the hotel. And to show you what brotherhood is, Kendall Bryant, who's the producer of the show, movie, he's a Desert Storm vet also. And Paul Loritz, he did the transportation, and he was an Iraq vet. Well, I had enough beers in me, and I hadn't drank in a while. So, 6 beers, it was getting me pretty good. And then I walked across the street, got another 6-pack. So that's kind of how it starts. I got back to the hotel and I messaged Paul, and I started talking to him on the FaceTime thing. And he goes, George, are you all right? I was like, no. And he saw me drink the beer. He goes, where are you at? And I told him where I'm at. So I'm outside the hotel. So I just want to just veg out for a while. Unbeknownst to him, while I'm talking to him, he's over texting Kendall Bryant upstairs. About 2 minutes later, Kenny comes down. He goes, George, what's going on, man? That's brotherhood. Yeah. They both had my back that quick.
Absolutely.
And whether it's someone in person or someone on the phone, it's like, I guess and I've spoke to a lot of veterans since that hike. And I'll say this, and hopefully it hits you all the way I'm hoping it does. There's nothing more sobering than talking to someone on the phone and you hear the slide of a pistol. That's when you know that person on the other end of the phone is that close to doing it.
Wow.
And it's happened twice with me, and thank God that I said the right stuff. And it was more or less, don't put that on me. Don't you dare, do not, I'm not going to call a welfare check on you because it's the worst thing you could do for a veteran. But I talked to him for 7 hours that night. Wow. And we're good friends on Facebook. I message him and stuff like that. And he calls me whenever he needs to, but he's a different person. And I think that moment that he was spoke to like that on the phone, that he knew right then and there, someone does have my 6. I'm not alone. And it doesn't take much, I'm a busy person, but I'd rather spend 7 hours, having to reschedule stuff to be able to talk to this guy.
Sure.
As opposed to saying, well, I could have been there, but I had to be here,
Yeah.
George, would you hold up? You had them there, I believe. Is it okay? Will you hold up the tag there with the names and just let people see that? This is a central part of the movie. This is what you were carrying with all the names, and there's a lot of interplay about that. People talking about how heavy they are, and all the way
Yeah.
from the beginning, all the way through, without even any words being said. They're prominent. You see them bouncing back and forth, and there's people
Yeah.
talking about them. Do you want me to hold them for a while? There's scenes like that, and those folks, those are the
Yeah.
names. And I think you said there's. I don't want to get it wrong. How many
And
names
if
were
you
on
get
that? How many names
363,
are
and I'll run it close to the
363?
camera so they can see that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that there's a lot. I mean, when you really see, and that's 16 and a half days. That's it, 16 and a half days. And these are
Wow.
real people, real names. I carry them to this date, 7 years later, still have them. Family members on Facebook that I haven't heard from in 5, 6, 7 months, they'll message me saying how I'm doing. And I know I could probably, like I think I told you, Robert, give me half hour, I can write down 95% of the names, you know? So when a family member sends me a message, I immediately go to my name tapes, take a picture of that name and send it to them saying, still got him. And it just blows them away. They're like, we didn't even know this guy. We didn't know George. We were just a family in, Kansas that sent this guy our son's name tape, and he still has them. He still carries them. And they are, they're in the movie, it says they're my security blanket, and they are. They saved my life on that trail. And, at 55 years old in December, I'm like a little kid. I don't go anywhere without them. I didn't lose them. I don't want to say that. Was that Walmart I was telling you about? God, keep them in the truck all the time. That way I know I'll never go anywhere without them. And I brought them inside for something. And I got in the truck, went out there to Walmart about 9 miles away. And I pulled in the parking lot and I turned around to look for the name tapes and they were gone. It dawned on me they're at the house. I didn't go into Walmart and shop. I turned around, drove 9 miles back home, got the name tapes and went right back out to Walmart.
Yeah.
And they sit in the buggy with me. And I've had people pass by and look at them and not say anything, but I'm pretty sure. And there have been some people that have recognized me out and about and stuff like that. But I'd love for them to stop and say, hey, we heard about those name tapes, and get a conversation going, because like it was on the trail, that person had said, well, why don't you carry a piece of paper with their names on it? Well, we wouldn't be having this conversation if there was a piece of paper in my pocket.
Right.
You all have to look at these and feel them and understand what these are about.
So these name tapes, they're really like 363 members of your family. You've taken them with you. You've walked them. You've talked to them. They've talked to you. And it's hard to think, for most people to think of talking to a name tape or having a name tape talk to you, but it's not the actual tape. It's in the heart and in the soul.
Memories.
And memories.
Yeah, it's memories. And there are pictures on Facebook of my hike in 2016 that it's inside my tent, and you'll see them right there. I sleep with them. They go inside my sleeping bag. It's a comfort thing, for me.
Yeah.
For a long time when I came off the trail, they were in the bed with me. When Ron had passed away, they were on her side. And I set them down there and went to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I reached for was reach over there to feel the name tapes, and they were there. And it's amazing how something that's that an inanimate object, let's say just a piece of cloth, can carry so much meaning that your life doesn't just revolve around them. Your life is changed by those names. And
Amazing.
I was told by somebody that, everyone dies twice. And you die is when people quit speaking your name. Your sons and daughters will never pass because, well, they're in a motion picture, so they're going to live on forever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That is very neat.
I just think it's neat that, like I said, they don't have a speaking part because they're not people, but they are people, and they spoke throughout the movie. It's just amazing. And I wanted to say real quick, and Robert's probably got some questions here. I just love the music and the scenery and the story all together. They really just meshed perfectly. I don't know where they found those songs, but it was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just a feeling that you got at that music. Some of the music would come in at just a perfect time. And it just kind of carried you, just weaved together throughout the story and the movie. And they did a fantastic job with that. I tell you, I'm thankful for them, because it's everything. It's not just one thing, even though the names and you and the story, but it's all the things that really comes with that. And it really does take you on a journey. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
It really is.
it's funny you mentioned the music, and they call the score is Eden Mulholland composed that specifically for that movie. It wasn't something they went to the internet and got.
Oh, okay.
Those songs and that music was specifically written for that movie. So his name's Eden Mulholland, and he's done a bunch of big work, and very talented person. So
amazing. I didn't know that. Wow.
So I bet there's a soundtrack out there.
Honest, yeah, if yeah. Yep.
That'd
There's
awesome.
Also the what was it? Oh goodness, that slipped my mind. Getting old here. It'll come back to me. But yeah, they've done some amazing stuff with this, and even Lam Entertainment. Most movie companies they make movies and move on to the next one, because that's how they make their money. Lam Entertainment, Ruth Penfield and Angus Penfield, they're family, and people that know when I say people are family, that means I will drop everything, no matter what I'm doing. I will walk to California if they need me. And
awesome.
Those two there have just been an incredible blessing that they've embraced the mental health aspect of life. They work diligently to get the word out, to help people with mental health. So they made a movie, and they still make other movies, but they haven't moved on from the keep. And that's pretty special, again, to find a movie company that will do that, and not just make it and go next one. It's there's something. I think that the fact that Angus wore the actual backpack that I carried, the name tapes that I carried, and even the walking poles that I had. I think they got into him like they got into me. I really do, because there was a change in him at the end of the 22 days also that I could see. And he's always kind of a quiet guy anyway, great actor. But there was more. You look at him and you say, well, he's in some deep thought. Even if he's talking to you, you can still sense, wow, there's a lot going on in that guy's head.
Definitely.
And without a doubt, it's all those emotions and all those memories. He carried them just like I did for 22 days. He carried them, heavy backpack and everything. So I think he they call him Keeper 2. He's the Keeper 2, which there's only one keeper on the Appalachian Trail. I've looked for it. No one else has the trail name Keeper. So hopefully they retire that name, because it's mine. But
absolutely.
But I mean, Angus, he's my brother.
Yeah, and they did I love it. You just never knew when to expect it, because if you've never seen the movie. The humor was awesome. There was at least 3 scenes, I think, where there's these very humorous moments that it just come out. You wasn't expecting it, whether it was going off in the night, what was going on in the building, or the bear or whatever it was. Those were just neat moments in the movie that just kept everything kind of chugging along, and I loved that. It was really special, because you're out hiking. There's things going to happen.
Guys, I'm gonna. All right, Mr. George, I've got a question or two for you. I don't want to give away anything from the movie, But there was a certain place where you stopped to rest one night, and I know that they gave the name of it, but I cannot remember it. That you left saying no, thank you, none of this, none of that. What was the name of the place where you stopped?
Bremer Castle Hostel in Hampton, Tennessee. We actually went to Bremer Castle Hostel, and the cast and crew, they thought I was kidding. Um, it is a haunted hostel. Yeah. So I don't do ghosts. I will literally walk over Mother Teresa to get away from a ghost. God forgive me, but I don't do ghosts. Um, and so yeah, they were while they were inside filming, I was outside and I was down the street. And I said, no, I'm not doing this. Oh, we need you there to oversee the scene. I'm like, nope, it's written down. Y'all enjoy. I'm not going there, so.
I do think that is one of the funniest scenes in the movie. Is
It is.
seeing portraying you walking away from it. Nope, nope, making a
Yeah, well,
trail.
and then I called Rhonda. Yeah, then I called Rhonda outside, and what she said on the phone is pretty much verbatim. She was
Yeah,
like that. She's like, hey, don't look behind you. It's like you're
don't
not
look
helping.
behind
You
you.
really are
Keep
not.
going.
Yeah, yeah. That's where the boogeyman lives. It's like you're really not helping, lady. So.
Amen.
Well, oh man, it really is a great movie. But let's dip into the heart of the movie just a little bit. Uh,
Mhm.
I've talked to you quite a bit, or quite a while today, and quite a while the other day, but I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and speak on some of this stuff and get your opinion. And I know your opinion already because we've talked about some of this. How many? What is the rough actual estimate of the number of veteran suicides in this country on a average day?
Uh, through just calculating, I guess, or really delving and thinking about it, taking all outliers and bringing them in, around 27. And the reason I come to that number, and other people have also agreed with it, is not every death can be ruled a suicide, even though that's what it was. Um, on the death certificate, it'll say accident, natural cause, whatever they put on there. One prime example, and I told you about this, Robert, was
Mm-hmm.
Vincent Taffy. He was played in the movie. His hiking name was Skillet. He was a real hiker. I've hiked with his mom on the AT before. He passed away. Him and his friend were in his subdivision. They've lived in their entire life. He was not on drugs. He was not drinking. And that's a tough one because him and his friend had an accident in the subdivision. They hit a tree at over 80 miles an hour, no brakes. Now, this guy grew up in this subdivision. There's nowhere in there you can even do 80 mile an hour without having to turn somewhere. So his mother knew what it was. He was having issues. He was having problems. And it was basically 2 suicides. No seatbelts. But they ruled it as an accident. So that doesn't go down as a suicide. There may be veterans that have different issues in life, can't keep a marriage, bad relationships, can't keep a job, alcoholics, and someone that is an alcoholic for 20 years dies of liver failure. Well, why was he an alcoholic? Well, he was in the military, but he never spoke about PTSD. Well, I drank for almost 14 years and no one ever said anything about it. And I mean, when I say I drank. And it was to numb things. It was to be able to go to sleep at night. But yeah, things like that they don't account as suicides, don't get counted. And they do that, I think, so they get lower numbers. It doesn't sound as bad. It's like, well, no, I mean, there's still 50 some odd people in America kill themselves every single day, and being veterans are almost half of them, but we're only 1% of the population. That's pretty incredible. I mean, there is an epidemic. There's a problem there. Um, so, but yeah, I mean, there's different things, to look out for and whatnot. But yeah, there's a lot of numbers that are not really factual right now.
Right. Well, let's lowball it. Let's say it's 20 a day. That's easier to do math. It's not factual, but it's a lowball number. But even at lowballing that, that's 700-800 people a year. 700 or 800 veterans every year gone by their own hand.
Yep.
And
We
and like you
we
said, it's over half from less than 1% of the population. You're right. Something has got to be done about this. And I think this movie helps bring that home, and it needs to be brought home. So what do we look for? If we have our relatives at home that
um
come back from a bad situation, what do we look for?
well, when they come back, they're not going to be who they left as, and that's understandable. That's an obvious. But they're still your loved one. You know their mannerisms. You know who they are inside. Um, People that, and I'll give my own, example is people didn't know what I was planning to do on the AT, and they say, uh, you hear all the time, if a veteran or someone's going to take their own life, there's nothing you can do because they're set on doing it. Well, not necessarily, because Rhonda understood that I was getting a little more distant. I'd given away literally everything that I owned. I had 3 boxes. And, I always joke saying, well, the down part about not following through with that is you got to start life over with 3 boxes. I gave away a lot of stuff. I started drinking again. Um, all the time that Ron and I were together, and her father was a veteran, suffered PTSD, and she knew how to deal with it. So when we were together, I'd work for a year, maybe 13, 14 months, and then I'd disappear for three months, just off the grid. And after the first year, she was there when I came back. She was upset. The second time I did it, she was more upset, but she planned. So on the third year, she would keep money out of my check each month, because she knew I was going to disappear, and that helped pay the bills. But she would also say, when she saw it coming, was, "You're going to come home, right?" And that was enough for me to say, "Okay, I'll come home." But it was more a habit at that point. So if someone, a loved one is having issues with relationships or finances or anything like that, and it's a pattern and you can see it, and it's not just something, just off the cuff that just happened, you have a fight with your wife or whatever, but you can see there's a big difference, and loved ones know each other. Brothers and sisters know each other. There's a difference that they can sense. They don't need to just let that thought go past them. It's like, no, he's changed. Something is different about last argument or the way he's acting now. Open it up. Ask them. The worst they can say is, "No, there's nothing wrong with me." Keep asking. Sooner or later you'll get the answer you're looking for. Sooner or later you'll get it. So,
and I think there's this whole fallacy that, well, I should be tough enough to handle this on my own. I can handle this. I can deal with this. I got this. Well, there's 20 some odd people every day that have been telling themselves that for how long, and they didn't have it. They didn't. So now they're gone. So how do we get into these tough guys? And they are tough and they're brave. And that's part of the problem, I think. They don't fear death. So how do we get through to them and say, hey, you need help? Accept it. It's there. Accept it. I'm here to help. I'll listen. If I ain't good enough, we'll find somebody that is. How do we reach into that?
I think the veterans I can speak on, civilians probably a little bit easier because they're different, I guess, they're different than veterans. We're veterans, but we're soldiers. We just don't have a war anymore, to go to. Right. So they're called veterans. If we had a war, they said, "George, would you sign up?" Yeah, in a heartbeat. Even though all the memories and stuff, it's like, yeah, I'll go make new bad memories, But in combat, you don't do anything by yourself. Even peacetime in the military, you're a team. You got somebody there with you at all times, your brothers. And when you lose that connection, and there's something called separation anxiety, separation PTSD. It's like being with someone, say a loved one that is, you're connected in such a way that and I say there's no greater love than a soldier has for his brother. There is none.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, yeah, I'll die for my kids. I'll die. And yes, you will. But would you die for a perfect stranger, which is this guy I just met in boot camp? 8 weeks later,
Yeah.
yes, I'll take a bullet for this guy. I'll jump on a grave for this guy. I'll run into fire for this guy. Well, there's a deeper love with veterans. That's why if I meet them on the street, I'm like, boom, I immediately start talking to them, and they talk to me, and there's a connection. And veterans know what I'm saying. That with that connection, it's harder because, again, so we're strong. We don't show emotions. We don't, and that's a survival mechanism we have in us. But if we can kind of get back to understanding, you're not alone. You're a veteran. You're still a soldier. You got buddies out there. You got brothers that you never served with. They could be a Vietnam vet. They could be a Desert Storm or Iraqi Afghanistan, Iraq wars. They're still brothers. They wore the uniform, and if they can do that and connect with one of those guys, they'll start getting that camaraderie back. They'll start getting that feeling that, okay, I'm not alone in this. I've got my brothers next to me like I did in the military. Somebody's got my six. This is not as scary as it has to be. I'm making it more scary than it has to be. And in the movie, that's why there's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of banter back and forth about different military branches and the Marines eating glue and stuff like that and chewing crayons, which is true, by the way. The Marines are watching this. They like the cherry, or the red crayons. They say it's like cherry. But yeah, I mean, there is a camaraderie amongst veterans when they talk to each other, that whether they combat or not. And I hear a lot of veterans say that when they first pop out, they talk to me, they'll say, well, I'm not a combat veteran. I didn't serve in combat. And my response to that is, you put a uniform on, not knowing whether or not you were going to go to combat or not. You still put that uniform on and you are ready to do it. Just because you didn't get called up and you didn't experience that, count your blessings, because there are 3 people that go into combat, that come out of combat. 1, you're going to come out in a bag. 2, you're going to come out in a wheelchair. Or 3, you're going to come out and you're not going to be the same person you were when you went in. Those are the only 3 options. You're not going to come out singing, hallelujah and so happy and grateful and you're a better person, a better life. No, you're damaged. And there are certain things where you either participated in or you witnessed worst thing man can do to man in such a violent way that as Americans and then God-fearing people, just with morals and ethics, our brains aren't really conditioned for that. Others may be. I can't, talk about other country soldiers, but as an American, we have morals and we have ethics and we have values. And when we get stuff like that, we participate in it. There's something called a moral injury with PTSD. A lot of these guys have guilt with PTSD. Moral injury is when they come back home and they realize, months or years later, it hits them. It's like, wow, I did that. I was a forward observer, FO, called in artillery, an airstrike. So I had to have eyes on target. I was watching the people, and some of these rounds took, 25, 30, 35 seconds to arrive. So for those 30 seconds, I was God. I was looking at these people going, you all have no idea what's about to hit you all. And having to keep eyes on the target. And in the flashback scene, when they fire and he says shot over and he says shot out. And he says, what he means is he's acknowledging the round has left the tube. And the splash over is roughly 5 seconds before the impact. The FDC will say splash, over. And when Angus or the FO sees the flash, he says, splash, out. That means the round came in, it hit target. If it was off target, then he'd say adjust fire, give him the coordinates. But yeah, that's when you see Angus's face, that he comes to realization, I just did that. I'm 21 years old and I just killed 40 people, and tomorrow is going to come and I got to do it again. And the next day and the next day. So we have a moral injury. When loved ones can accept that and understand that when their soldier comes back, that's what they're dealing with. It's everything on the outside is wonderful. If they can understand that he's not the same or she's not the same person they left as, they're not weaker. They're not, I'll say damaged. They're not broken. Okay. Damaged and broken are two different things. Damaged you can fix. Broken you can't. Yep. None of us are broken. I've never met a veteran that's broken. I'll look at him and say, you're lost cause, dude. Yeah, you're damaged. Put a little body work on that. Put a new fender, you're good. Your tire, you're rolling again, man.
Yeah, let's buff that out.
If they can, identify that. And again, the loved ones know each other. And they may be subtle, but don't be afraid to ask up, because one thing you don't want to do while you're standing there looking over a casket is say, man, I saw it coming, but I just didn't think he'd do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or wow, I just didn't think he'd go. I didn't think he was that bad. It's like, well, you're thinking that now over a casket. Wouldn't it have been better to ask that back there? And not putting blame on families, but I would rather them ask the hard questions up front and get a response of, an argument or upset at each other. At least it opens the conversation up. When the Band-Aid's pulled off, you may not like what it looks like under the Band-Aid, but that'll heal. We can fix that.
Yeah.
Pull the Band-Aid
now,
off. Don't
and in the movie,
so
in the movie, there was a point in time where you took your medicine. You had a pill that you were taking, and one of the characters in the movie says, "And don't forget to take that." I forgot it, and it did not end well. Sometimes medication is a tool. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, I think they're like, well, I don't need no crazy pill. I'm just fine. I'll handle it without all that. But sometimes, and I've found it necessary in my life after major surgery, depression set in and everything else, and I had to have something to help me over that hump. It's a tool. It's not something that's going to change your life or alter anything. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, this is your story. You're the vet.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That was that scene there. When people see it, I just want them to get in their head that's Nicholas Assad, and he's playing Wade Baker. Wade Baker was a suicide by cop. He got off his meds, and that's how quick it happens. With medication, at the end of the movie, I give special thanks to Tennessee Valley Healthcare. Now, I live in Georgia. I don't go down south. I don't go to Atlanta for VA. I go to Tennessee. They saved my life. Well, the name under that is Dr. Eric Johnson. He's not a psychiatrist. He's my pharmacist. That man keeps me alive. And he doesn't push pills. We talk. He's like a therapist. He can't give me advice, but he'll listen. And that's, if you listen to a veteran, you get 99% of the problems already solved. That's all they want you to do is listen. That's kind of like on that mountain where they were both talking and one of them didn't interrupt him until at the end of this conversation. He didn't answer. He didn't comment on what he just said. He answered the first question that guy asked. He just listened to what he had to say. But yeah, with the medication, if you get a good pharmacist and you can talk to them and be honest with them. And me, I'm not a big pill taker. I was against them. Before all this, went to the VA after Rana passed, most thing I ever took was an Advil. The Motrins, the 800 milligrams of good pills from Airborne, can't they call them? When I got Eric Johnson, he got me on a regimen that is perfect, and it smooths everything out, and it's such a blessing. I'm like, God, if I just had this 30 years ago, I'd have been such a great person. But then again, I'm thinking back again to that other movie. I won't say anything about it, but maybe I wouldn't have met Rhonda. You know,
Yeah.
maybe that wasn't what it was supposed to be back then. I
Yeah.
had a journey that I was going to travel, and that's the biggest part of this is, again, the message. It wasn't meant for me to end the journey, go home and live my life. It was in the journey, share the message, step out of your comfort zone, go to these red carpet events, do the interviews. And it's like, I don't, get noticed in Walmart, which is kind of, I'll say this here real quick. There was a Korean War veteran, older guy, obviously in his upper 70s, 80s. He had a Korean War veteran hat on, and his wife was there. And as I'm walking down the aisle, he's walking toward me with his wife, and our eyes meet. And the way he kind of just this blank stare, and he's put his finger like he's kind of shaking like this here. And I looked at him and I said, "Yes, sir. And thank you for your service." He knew who I was. He just couldn't get it out who I was. And
Yeah.
shook his hand and said, "Thank you for your service, sir." He goes, "I read about you in that Calhoun magazine." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Wonderful story." But it just those, I like the other ones. They just kind of stare at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's anything that touches people where they can walk away from this movie and walk away with something more than just a belly full of popcorn is just it's. I can never ask for anything more.
Awesome.
Well,
George, I have one last question that I would like to ask before we end. And as you've been talking about the loss here, y'all been talking about the loss of those soldiers, other soldiers, talking them back and listening to them. There's a really powerful scene where you get the phone call that there's someone who is injured and they now have passed. And I don't want to touch any wounds here or anything, but the character he's dealing with a lot of different emotions at that moment, anger being one, but it really transitions into something else too. It's kind of channeled. Could you just speak on that for just a second? Would that be okay? Because that's a pretty powerful scene to
yeah,
me early in the movie. I mean, it really hit me hard. That scene is incredible. And I guess in relation to that, those that are still with us who have lost those people and those emotions that they're feeling. We've talked about that from, not what not to say, but now that it has happened, what was he feeling at that moment? Because this is your story. What was that we can take away to understand a little more? I think it's what I'm trying to say here.
Well, that was yeah. His name was Michael Stangelo, and he attempted suicide. He survived a gunshot to the head. He was in intensive care, and I got his name tape. I believe about 2 weeks before I started my hike. Well, all the other names were deceased. He was still alive, fighting for his life. So I put his name tape up on my strap. And for those 2.5, 3 weeks, almost 4, that I'd pray for him every night. God, please help this Marine. Don't, let it live. Please don't put him on my ring. And when I got to Shaw's Hostel in Monson, Maine, I was out there, had my trail book, figure what I'm going to do for the next, week or so, where what shelters and stuff. And I get a call from his cousin. And I knew right away when she called me, something told me, this woman's never called me before. It's always been private message. And her name popped up on my phone, and it was like everything just left me. I knew what she was going to say. And she said that Michael passed away that morning.
mm,
And it was, I guess, the way I was feeling that day. It was just, the whole thing was a roller coaster ride, pretty much entire trail, because you have good days and bad days. And when the bad days hit you, it kind of sets you back a few good days. And when in the reality of it, outside the movie, was when Poet, who owned Shaw's Hostel as his trail name, when he came out, he knew that something was wrong. And instead of trying to comfort me and pat my back and stuff, he just said, he goes, I don't know what to tell you, George. Didn't call me Keeper. He called me George. He said, I'm going to tell you, George. He says, all I can do is offer you a biscuit and bacon. And it was kind of funny in a way that I didn't laugh about it, but it was like, it was enough to go, did this dude just offer me a biscuit and bacon? But it was enough to get me out of that depressed mode I was in, because I just took this guy that was real close to me and he was like my buddy, now he's on the ring. And it's like, will this stuff ever stop? I just keep adding names to these name tapes.
Yeah.
And so it was, that's why in the film it says, I'll slap a nun for some bacon. Because you got to feed the addiction, and, it was, that, and I remember that the way he said it, was all I can offer you is a bacon biscuit, a biscuit and bacon. I was like, huh, okay, I snapped out of it. I'm from the South. Throw a little gravy on there, and we might talk about marriage, man.
Amen. Awesome. We like our gravy.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. George, I really, really appreciate you spending some time. And I just want everyone out there to know that this movie is very moving. It's it'll get you right in the heart. And it's an important topic. And it's something that we all need to talk about.
Yes.
Those of us that have lost. And I guarantee you, like Mr. Eshleman said, if you look, there's people, it's affected you. It's affected everybody. We're talking about over 20 people every single day. It's touched you. And it's something that they talk about addressing, and we're going to address that. We're going to do it next year. Well, that may not happen. It's time for our families of these veterans, especially, that know these people, to start pushing them in that direction, because they think they can handle it. And there's 20 some odd people every day that says they can. There's help to be had.
I'll leave you with this number here. This will kind of set it in reality that in the past 120 years, okay, we've lost more soldiers to suicide than we've lost in all the wars since Civil War.
Wow.
Now let the sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
We killed more of ourselves, our own soldiers, than we have lost in battle. 5,800 were lost in Afghanistan, Iraq. We did that in 3 or 4 years to ourselves. So it's an epidemic, and for families to, they always have the question of why. Well, why not ask before that question comes up?
Yes.
And so and that's probably the message I'd leave with everybody is, pull the Band-Aid off. Worst that can happen is it'll get you into an argument, but at least it gets you arguing. It gets you talking about something, and the other person knows that you care.
Yeah.
Thank you, George. Thank you for your time. Amazing.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
Can I add one more thing there? Our veterans and our service members deserve better. They deserve better from the country that they're serving.
Yeah.
And even the civilians, in the movie, it says took an oath to defend and protect. Civilians too. Doesn't matter if you're a military veteran or not. And, in the movie, the lady with the dog, her cousin committed suicide. So it touches everybody. So whether it's not just veterans, I'll walk a mile to throw myself on a sword for my brothers, but we save some civilians too. And just, quit this stuff. There's, just stop. If all those people could have done it again, 363, we wouldn't be sitting here, because they would not have done it. They would not have done it.
Yes, sir. My goodness. We're going to do what we can to stop it. We're going to start in on this. Y'all have not heard the last of this from this show.
That's right.
But Mr. George Eshleman, great movie. The Keeper, y'all make sure and watch it. If it's not in your theater, request it. It's going to be in the theaters through, I think you said November. Did I hear that right?
Yeah. They keep requesting until they start streaming it. They go to the keepermovie.info, and it'll tell you who to contact and to get it into your local theater. And portions of the proceeds of this movie are donated to a bunch of different other organizations, but two of them, Dave, Disabled American Veterans, and Gary Sneese Foundation. So the money that you spend to watch the movie is a small price to pay to get the information. to absorb the message, but also you're helping other veteran organizations that deal specifically with PTSD.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
And that, if you want to see the trailers, we've got it on the ticker down here at the bottom, but let me speak out on it. It's thekeepermovie.info.com. This was the winner of the Best Veteran Film in 2024. And I think you said it had 98% of them actually likes it over movies like Saving Private Ryan and such as that. So
yeah, man, it was one Best Veteran Picture. And it's there's no .com after info. It's just thekeepermovie.info. No .com, and it'll bring them right to the page.
Rajo. Well, Mr. George, we appreciate everything, and we appreciate you so much being on here. Like I said, this was near and dear to us, and once again, I'm going to do a shout out to Elizabeth. She's the one that first told me about all this and got this ball rolling, and we greatly appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. George, if you'll hang around, we're going to end the interview now, and we'll have another little talk here in just a sec.
All right.
Thank y'all all out there. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.